Hey. I'm like, let me fix my camera. Let me fix my camera. Okay, that's much better. Hey. Um, so I'm bringing you this video today from my sunroom, and there's probably gonna be some background noise. So I'm hoping that you can hear me. But I wanted to make this video because I haven't made a video in a while, and I'm like, what's really good? I need to make a video, some updates, and some important things to talk about. So as you can see, I'm taking out my braids. That's my hair. Well, yeah, I've seen my hair before. It's not like this. Yeah, I haven't seen it. But right now I got some shrinkage, of course, because they've been in these braids for a while. But I wanted to make this video just to give y'all some updates about my life. And so I officially made my first video, I want to say in June. No, not June. It was like May, right? And I had planned to come to LA, and I have done that. And I've had so many experiences since May, which is wild to me. But I came here with the intention to really focus on healing a lot of things that happened. And sorry, that was some weed up in there. That happened, and my hair looks a mess, y'all. Do not pay attention to that. That happened while I was living in the Bay Area. So, I think I've really done that. Who's watching? Can you say hi? Because I don't know who's watching right now. And I want to know who's watching so I can be like, hey, what's up? But a lot of things have happened since I've been here in LA for a short amount of time. I had one job that wasn't really for me, and I knew that very quickly, so I moved on from that. I really do like the job that I'm working now, mainly because it's more flexible. Hey, boo. Hey, Alexis. How you doing? So I had moved on from the other job, and I've been working this other job that I really like, and it's with young people, and it's just more flexible. And I just needed that. I didn't come here to be like, I already had some level of burnout, honestly, to be completely honest, from working in education for the last 11 years. So I really came here to kind of reset myself. And so I wasn't trying to burn myself out here too, basically. But a part of that, and saying that, and then talking about moving on and how that looks like in LA, I've gathered more information about, therapy and therapists, and I joined this really dope organization here, became a member that does a lot of community work with people who have incarcerated family, cooking a bag of pasta mix, who have incarcerated family, and we had a brunch here not too long ago at the house, which was really dope. So it's been really good to build community and meet new people. And what has really been really awesome for me being here is just being in creative spaces. And that means because it wasn't like I wasn't in creative spaces in the Bay, but I'm saying more like being in creative spaces like art museums. I've spent so much time at museums, and it's been really just so delightful and great. I went to this event not too long ago, which maybe last week. Yeah, called 29 Rooms. So dope. If 29 Rooms ever comes to your city, go. Okay? So it's through this organization called Refinery. It focuses on Thank you. Um, so yeah, I went to this thing called by Refinery called 29 Rooms. If it ever comes to your city, please go. So basically it's 29 rooms all decorated by different artists, and each room has a different focus. So it was so dope. Like it was one they had, which I really like. It was like speed date. So it was really interesting. But basically, you're supposed to like partner with a stranger when you walk in the room. Like they have this line: you go into the room and you partner with the stranger, and then you have a card. So you have like a deck of cards. Each card has a different question. Now, mind you, you don't know this person, right? So they start you off there like, tell the person your name and one thing about you, or like where you from, or whatever. And then from there, you just pick up cards, and it's just questions. And some of the questions range from something that's like mad deep and personal to something like, oh, what's your favorite food, right? So that was really cool because I think LA really needs more situations where people can meet people and get to know people. But like the larger the city is, the less communal it is. And I've realized that. And I've been reading this really dope book. It's called Still Germs and Guns or something like that. But it's just basically about just like human geography, human interaction. And it goes, what I really like about it, it goes outside of just this idea of what people were post colonialism. Like it digs more deeper into that and even talks about like very distinctively in the preface to the book that this is not a book to talk about the contributions that Europeans gave to the rest of the world. This is really a book to dissect all of that and also look at what was going on with European people and other people around the world, and not talk about this very like it in a way that's inferior versus superior, because it's really not about that. And the book is like based on like, for instance, like it's one part in there, and I'm gonna tell you why I'm bringing this up, because it's one part in there that really makes so much sense to what it looks like to live in like larger cities like LA and New York, and some people will say San Francisco, even though geographically and physically geographically, LA is the largest city I've lived in. So like when it comes to New York City is not geographically large, but there's a lot of people. And the same thing with San Francisco. But the point that the book makes is like, it talks about how geography has affected people and how it was kind of like Europeans lucked out because they were in Eurasia and they were in between all of these places that had to cross them to get to each other. So because they were in the middle of that, they got some advances that other people weren't able to get. And it wasn't because they were superior or smarter or whatever the case might be that has been like pushed into us for mad long, that is like the superiority thing. It was basically like, okay, these indigenous people over here didn't need, metal weapons and all that stuff because geographically that didn't make sense, right? So that book, that's one of the things it talks about. The second thing it talks about is like, okay, what it looks like to live in like smaller communities and larger communities, right? And how in larger communities, it's based more on what was he saying? I wrote it down. I don't want to go all the way in my room and get it. But basically, they were talking about like how in smaller places and smaller communities, it's easier for people to focus on more communal things, family, friends, and have closer connections with those people because they're not as industrialized and they don't have to oh yeah, it was talking about also in warmer places, why warmer places are more communal because people spend more time outside. And then like it was talking about basically why Europeans and living in colder places, that if you're indoors more, then you have more time to come up with new inventions and think about new inventions and think about new ways to do things, as opposed to if you're in warmer climates, how you're more outdoors and you're working with the elements of the earth. You don't have to wear as much clothes, or you don't have to think about new ways to like create what's already in nature when you live in warmer places. All of this stuff basically made sense, right? But then I thought about it in the context of like, yo, what does that mean when you live in a place like LA, right? And then it always comes back to this thing like, I know in living in all of these places, like Buffalo being a more medium-sized place, right, where it is a lot more communal, and versus like LA, right, which is less communal because it's larger spaces and it's more small communities as opposed to the greater Los Angeles. And how people interact with each other, right? And basically, the more industrialized the place is, the less communal it is, right? And then I'm like, wow, that makes so much sense. But basically, I'm still reading this book, and I suggest it to every single human because, like, I think it's absolutely fascinating to just see how humans work, and it can be brought into modern context just as well. It's not just of talking about history, but this explores how we basically, the book still Guns and Germs kind of just explores all of those elements of just human geography and human interaction through history. And basically it allows you to draw like the conclusion of how we've gotten to where we're at right now, and how it has very little to do with this idea of cultural, racial superiority. Either way, you didn't come here for this, but that's a part of what I've been really exploring and looking at, and all of this time that I've kind of been traveling and living in these different places. And it also explains exactly why the Bay Area is so different from even LA, you know? And so that's an important context to how I feel in certain cities and certain places. So the book is relevant to my current state in life within a place that is a lot less communal than like the place I grew up in, right? So, and I was like moving on in LA. So moving on in LA also looks like I just started my podcast. We're on episode 6, and my grandma, okay, so I'll say this because I'll be all over the place. So I'll say this. My podcast is called The Blacker the Berry Podcast, right? And my name on here is The Berry Flair. My name as the host of my podcast is The Berry Flair. And the reason why the last name Berry is so important to me is because that is the last name. That's my father's last name, but that's also my grandma's last name. And for those of you who don't really know, my grandma, she just passed away at the top of this year. And she is a very, still is, I wouldn't say was, is a very important person to me and to my life. And like being around her growing up and kind of seeing how she was always the type of person that she didn't take people's crap. And I always really admired that about her. And it didn't matter who they were, and she was one of those people that it's like, okay, you get as much respect as you give me. And it's not about your title in life. It's not about who you think you are, what kind of money you have. It's about how you treat me as a human. And my grandma, Ellen Berry, really inspired me to be that type of person 100%. So I really, my life's work has really been in looking at just like how other people work, why they do the things they do. And particularly in restorative justice, it's about humanizing people. And when you hear the word restorative justice, it doesn't feel connected to you. You're not like, oh, it can feel like a very Eurocentric way to look at community when you hear the word, right? But it's really things that I've learned my whole life, and this idea of really humanizing people and it not being so much always about people's power or roles or whatever, whoever they think they are, you know, but it's about like inherently we are all human, unless you're an animal, right? I mean, we are animals, but you feel me, like how we break it down in those contexts. But just like I think about all the things that my family has taught me about humanizing people and how they've always been very communal people and inviting people. Um, and watching my grandma be that person really taught me a lot. So the Berry Flair, the podcast, is in her namesake. That was very important to me that I use my last name because um, it's very, I'm carrying on a last name now. Now that my grandma has passed away, I'm like one of the only women right now who's still in my family, that immediate side of my family, my dad's side of the family, who still has the last name Berry. Um, so it's very important to me that I carry on that lineage in an important way, and then to honor my grandma. And by humanizing people, it looks like inviting people on my podcast to talk about, it's a storytelling podcast. It's a podcast to help let other people tell their stories in the way they view life and have been moving through life in the way they use their stories and other people's stories to heal. So that looks a variety of different ways. And how, again, does this have anything to do with my grandma? Is because she lived a very full life, and I learned a lot about her when she was sick. So recently, at the beginning of 2018, I went back to Buffalo, lived there, worked there, and I particularly stayed because my grandma was sick. So, and I really wanted to be able to spend some time with her. So in that time, I learned a lot about her life that I had never known. And in all my life, I knew my grandma. And I didn't know the stories that, my aunts and uncle and my father were telling me. And I'm like, how many Black women, strong Black women, live every day not being able to tell their story, not being able to talk about the things that have happened to them and how it has brought them to where they are. And how many times are we finding out these stories when people are leaving us? So I wanted to use the platform for the Black or the Berry to allow people to tell their stories, but also allow people to tell their stories that are healing for them and can be healing for other people. So like a recent episode I had my friend Lauren Elizabeth, who is a music therapist. She came on, and she certified music therapist, and she came on and she spoke about, how she's using music therapy to work with terminally ill children in Oakland. And these are communities of color, So it's really important, and it was really important for me to share that with other people because this is an accessible means of healing for everyone. It's not just for terminally ill children, but also like everybody can look into how music therapy can play a part in their life. And it's not like you just listening to music. Like there's other aspects to it, right? But she talks a lot about that and where you can find more information and where you can find out how to get, music therapy in your life. But that's just an example. So I wanted to use that as a means to do that because I don't feel like my grandma ever really got the space to tell her story. But not only that, to work through her traumas in ways because she didn't have that space. She was raised in a family. She was a single mother. And then, her grandchildren were there. And we never knew those stories. I wanted to make a platform where people could do just that. And they can talk about how they're working through healing. Like I had one of my friends, Taja Nicole, she came on. She's an artist. She talks a lot about the episode she did with me in particular was around mental health. And she's not only a mental health advocate, musician, and artist, but also she deals with a lot of mental illness. So she came on, she told her story, but she also talked about how she's used her art and different things in her life to move through her mental illness, right? And how some of those things have worked or some of those things haven't worked. But I just wanted it to be a place where people can access information through things that I know that a lot of people are dealing with. And that's in the name of my grandma. Her birthday was yesterday. Uh, she would have been 78. And it's just been really important to me in trying to be as intentional as possible and making it clear that like healing is not a easy thing and it looks ugly and it hurts and but all of these things are steps. So I wanted to start this. I started this particular platform to kind of show my journey. Oh, we ain't got no braids anymore. To show my journey and living here and trying my best to work through those things and find different means of healing and how that looks. And this is like a digital journal of such, and getting back out there and dating and, you know, after sexual assault and physical assault and talk, you know, just like my everyday life. So moving on in LA looks like this. And my hair right now is so shrunk. So I'm gonna get back on here when my hair is dead because it's looking real short right now. Yeah, when my hair is dead so y'all can see my stuff flowing. Oh, I didn't get like 3 braids in the back, y'all. So yeah, I'll get back on here and I'll show you when my hair is dead. When I wash it and blow dry and all that stuff. But I just wanted to come on and do a quick video and taking out these braids. They've been in for some months now because I'm a wild lady. I'm just leaving braids in for too long. But yeah. And when I move on from here, you all will know too. Because I knew, I just want to let you know, when I came to LA, I knew that LA was temporary for me. I had a plan. And so I'm never going to act like I moved to LA to be here long term because that never was actually my plan. This was a stepping stone to really clear my palette of years of living in the Bay Area and then kind of have a middle ground before I completely left California. So long term can look a lot of different things and short term can look a lot of different ways. Short term can look like 2 years, you know, long term can look like 2 years, depending on who you are, right? So I always just want to say that people should be living their life the way they would like to. And, you know, I'm not assuming that everything I do makes sense to everyone, right? And it's not really supposed to. But I always hope that, and being transparent, that somebody gets something from how I'm living my life. And then that's in no way to say that I'm getting it right every day, because I don't. But I have really surprised myself and how I have, with the help, of course, of many people who love me, how I've began to move forward and move on in LA and kind of rebuild my confidence in a lot of ways, not only in my ability to know what works for me in a workplace, but what works for me in a living space, what doesn't, what works for me when it comes to dating. And that's why I shared all those videos about dating and stuff like that. What works when it comes to all of those things. And y'all were here to kind of watch me go through those things. Now, when it comes to dating, I think the last video I made, I kind of talked about the date I had with this young man who was a Scorpio. Probably didn't say that he was a Scorpio. Which, okay, I'm into horoscopes. Horoscopes say that we never gonna be compatible, but in one way. And I'll let y'all guess what that one way might be. But either way, it was a really great date, and I already explained that in the last video I made, which was my little cooking video. But we haven't seen each other since then, and sometimes you just gotta chalk it up to that. It was good while it was good, and that's it. And it served its purpose for me, at least. And the purpose being like that I was putting myself out there again to date and to put my trust in new people and create new friendships. And I kind of see if I still have my mojo. If people say that, I just be thinking of Austin Powers every time I say that. But yeah, just kind of see if I still had it, because many people may know that, after, assault and things like that, it's kind of hard to kind of get back out there and have confidence in people. And so it was just really important for me to challenge myself again, to get back out there, to not have like all these high expectations, but to be like, this is safe. And it's safe when you isn't, how do I say this? Because people can be unsafe all the time. But that I have to know what I want when I'm going out there, and I have to be forward with my expectations as much as possible. But at the same time, I can't like totally isolate myself from being out there, because I do enjoy dating, and I don't want. I think my first video I talked a lot about how like you sometimes when things like that happen and there's assault in your life in more than one way, then like you kind of get in this mode of like isolating yourself. Also, you get in this like very victimizing mode, right? And it was really important to me to be as intentional about what it's going to look like for me personally to move through, and I'm still moving through the trauma and the of assault. And when it all comes down to it, right, we could talk about what it means to report people and call the cops and right. But I ask myself, do those things really focus on what healing looks like for someone? And I think I've been able to be prepared to work through this in ways that I thought I couldn't. And not to say that every day was easy, but like having my restorative justice background, having people I met who do transformative justice and harm reduction work, and meeting all those people, having conversations, reaching out to that community that I know and met, all them people that I met through the work and all the things I learned and skills I learned through the work essentially helped me in a lot of ways. And I don't want to say that like it's been easy or it's been perfect or any of those things, but it's been, I feel like I've been authentic in that, and I've been honest with myself, and it's really kind of restored my confidence in like what I'm capable of more than anything. And to say that the journey is not over is like what I mean by that. But look at, oh my god, that's a braid out but crunchy. Yes, girl. I'm gonna come back so y'all can see my hairs when I does it, because right now it's like that's not even my hair right now. That is my hair, but very crunched. Crunch time. Yeah, I'm gonna come back on this soon. But I just want to make this video and I want to talk about moving on and moving forward. So the point is, check out my podcast. I'm gonna put the link below. Also, if you got to the end of this video, subscribe, because that's really important as well. Repost. Tell people about me. Come on. If you like my content, if you like what's going on here, let other people know. You feel me? And yeah, that's all I got to say. I don't got no makeup tutorial or hair tutorial, which I thought about doing that. But I have me and I have what I'm focused on, which is community healing and being transparent, because I think people's transparency help other people too. So y'all come back now, whenever. Also, on your car ride, on when you're just chilling at your crib, when you're on the bus, when you're on the train, my podcast will be a great thing for you to listen to, I promise you. And if you are interested in being a guest, also, that is a possibility. So, I'm going to put back on my glasses. Yeah, I didn't know I had my glasses here the whole time. But either way, I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. When you come back, now you're here. I feel like Beyonce in the Baby Boy video when she got that, she be having her curls on the side, and she was like, "Baby boy, you the your mama. Baby boy, you a so damn bad. Baby boy, won't you be mine?" Okay, but you get it. Toodaloo. Have a wonderful evening, day, all things that come with the day, afternoon, morning, all that. Whatever time, whatever place you might be, enjoy yourselves.